Hey, what's up, YouTubers? It's me again, Brian. I am back for a second review. This is going to be my second one, and today I'm going to be talking about Darksiders, the Death Initiative Edition. That's what they're calling it, okay? Now, for those who don't know, for those who are probably aware of, or for those who aren't aware, Darksiders has kind of had an interesting little history, though. It was published by THQ, and basically both games were released. The first one was released on the PS3 and the 360, while the second one eventually was released again on the PS3 and 360, and it became a launch title for the Nintendo Wii U, launched back in 2012. Unfortunately, as enjoyable as the games were, both of them exactly, at least that's how I'm looking at it though, THQ unfortunately hit a lot of financial problems and eventually they went bankrupt, and so it threw a lot of their properties, including this one right here, in limbo. So it wasn't clear exactly what was going to happen, but eventually it did find a home again. A company called Nordic Games picked up the rights, and eventually they just recently released Darksiders 2 that I just showed you for the PS4 and the Xbox One. The question becomes, is it worth another dip at it? Is it worth trying again? It depends. It's going to depend exactly whether it's worth, paying again for it or not. There are some pros and cons to it, and I do think there are some things I do like about the series and some areas I don't. We'll start with the pro first. The first pro I'm going to talk about is I like the art style. I really like the visuals they have for the game. I know it's a last-gen game, and I know when compared to, say, The Last of Us Remaster, where that looked really good at 1080p, 60 frames per second, I think it makes up for it with the really neat art in the game, the really neat art style in the game, though. I mean, there are some games out there where visually it may not be the best thing, but there are certain things that help make up for it, though. And Darksiders is one of those areas. The visuals actually, in my opinion, look really good. Second thing is I like the fact how they combine a couple of things to it. I mean, they take one part Legend of Zelda, a personal favorite of mine, a personal favorite series though. One part Diablo, one part Devil May Cry and God of War. I like those games. I'm a big fan of hack and slash though. And I like how they kind of combine them into this game, and so it borrows those elements and executes them very well. I mean, it plays fine. I haven't had really any big issues. Controls are great. And finally, the third pro I could tell you about the game is that it's not a bad deal. I mean, I know there's some people have issues with remastered video games, especially since we're seeing a lot on the PS4 and Xbox One. But this one isn't bad. I mean, it's 30 hours of content according to this, like 30 hours of it, and for around $30. And I don't think that's a bad deal. I think if you missed out on it, that is a very good deal, though, and I think it's worth taking a look. So, with all the positives, what are the cons with the game? Well, a couple. We'll start first. As I mentioned, the game does run at 1080p, and the art style is great, and that's fine. This one's going to depend on how you look at it, though. Based on my time with it, I see that it's running at 30 frames per second. Now, personally, I don't have a big deal with that, not nearly as much as some people do. I know for some people it's an issue, and I understand that. I mean, when compared to several other remastered games, like I think the Borderlands Handsome Collection runs at 60 frames. Again, Last of Us and the Uncharted just run at 60 frames per second. So it's a little disappointing. Not a big deal, but a little disappointing that it's running at only 30 frames per second. The second issue I have with the game is that, as I mentioned in the pros, it borrows elements from, several series that I pointed out to, and that's good. At the same time, though, I also feel like when I'm playing the game, I can easily spot certain things. Like, For example, you go into a dungeon, you find a key to unlock the door. That's very Legend of Zelda. Like I said, the combo feels very much like Devil May Cry and God of War. The loot system, like Diablo. It doesn't make it a bad game. It just doesn't do really anything special or anything new. That's the thing. That's the same issue I had with the first Darksider when it came out a couple years ago. I mean, again, both are not bad games. It's just you've played these types of games before. You'll feel like, okay, like I said, this part's God of War, this part's Devil May Cry, this part's Legend of Zelda. Again, not a huge negative, but it doesn't change, it doesn't bring anything new. At least that's how I'm looking at it. I don't think it does. Third complaint I will say is that although it adds 30 hours of content, which I think is good, at the same time, I do wish they did put the first Darksiders in here. I do wish that for those who missed out on the first one, I think I would have been nice for them to play that one if they, catch up a little bit. I mean, I know the second one to some degree kind of felt like a reboot or telling a different story though, but it would have been nice to at least have the first one in there. And finally, the last one is it worth the double dip? I mean, this is an issue a complaint we've been kind of hearing this generation, especially on the PS4 and the Xbox One, is that we've seen a lot of remasters games. And unfortunately, Darksiders 2 is unfortunately another victim of it. I mean, doesn't make it a bad game. It's just that I don't know if it's worth. It depends if you're willing to spend the money to buy it a second time. I mean, you could play it off the PlayStation Now if you have a PS3, although I don't know if any of the DLCs will be available, and it's streaming. So if you have a sucky internet connection, you're going to be out of luck. Xbox One owners, I don't know if Darksiders 2 is one of those games you could play off your Xbox One. So the most likelihood is you're better off just buying the updated version for like about $30 though. I mean, I know not everyone's going to agree with it, but if you want to play Darksiders 2, that's probably your only options that you have available right now. Take your chance to see if Microsoft's going to have it available to play as a backwards compatible, like for the Xbox One owners, or play through PlayStation Now for PS4 owners, or spend $30 and go buy the definitive edition or definitive edition, or I'm just going to call it definitive edition. Thank you. All right. Overall, I do like the series. I really do. I mean, I know it doesn't offer anything new, but I feel that it is a good game. I do wish the sales for the game were a lot better, because I would have really liked to see a Darksiders 3. And I hope that this one, despite being a remaster, I hope that it does well enough that we'll get a third one, though. I really would like to see a third one, though. I mean, I know, I will say, if the PS4 or the Xbox One are your main consoles, this is probably the closest thing you're going to get to a Zelda-like game on your system, unless, of course, Microsoft or Sony makes a Zelda-like game for their system. And don't bother even thinking that Nintendo's going to bring Zelda to those systems. You're better off just trying to take your chance at the lottery than waiting for that to happen. As for Zelda fans, or those who own a multiple console as well, this would probably be nice to have, and it will keep you occupied. Unless, of course, you have it on like the Wii U, then there's no reason to pick this up unless you really want to get the PS4, Xbox One version. By the time I'm guessing by the time Zelda U eventually comes out, this one probably will be forgotten for some people, though. Others may not, but I think a lot will. Until Zelda U comes out, you're only, if you want your Zelda-like fix, your only options will be this, or this, or this, or this, or this. My personal favorite Zelda game of all time. I know it's a black sheep for some people, but what the hell? I like this one. Or the Triforce. Bottom line is that if you're a diehard Zelda fan and you need your Zelda fix right now, the ones I showed you or this are probably your best option at this moment until Zelda U comes out. So anyway, I like the game. It's going to depend whether or not it's worth another dip into it or not. If it's worth, I mean, the price isn't bad, but again, some people don't like the idea that this generation's got a lot of remastered games. Others don't view it as big of an issue. So it really is going to come down to whether or not you want to spend $30 on it or not. So I don't think it's a bad deal, but that's my opinion, though, all right? What do you guys think? Are you willing to pick up Darksiders 2 again? Do you want a sequel to happen? Or do you think the series should just be put to rest? Or do you think you're not picking it up because you're sick and tired of all these remaster games coming out? You think it's not, you just want new stuff. You don't want all this remaster crap coming out. Anyway, like the video, leave a comment, tell me what you think. You're gonna get it? You're not? You decided, you know what, I'll get it sometime later down the road. Right now I'm busy getting Fallout 4. Next game I'm gonna pick up though. Alright, so like I said, leave a comment, like the video, hit that like button, and that's all. That's my review for today. So you guys have a very good day. Bye.